Hey everybody. It is a lovely Tuesday after a very long week that really needs to die. Um, but I'm still feeling pretty good. I decided I'm gonna see what I can do about this first video that I'm gonna make. I got this question a couple of times, and it's mainly from family that have known me my whole life. And that was, when did you know that you were transgender? I'm really glad that I got that one because I think it's a good starting place, actually. And in truth, there's two answers to that. One is a little more complicated, and one's pretty simple. The simple answer is 28. The second but complicated answer is I've always known. I just didn't have the vocabulary to understand that that's what made me so different. So I'll elaborate on that second one. Um, when I was a kid, everybody will tell you I was a tomboy. And that being a tomboy doesn't mean that you are transgender. Absolutely not. But I will explain to you why my, sorry, I didn't look at this. My tomboyisms were different than just the average girl who likes to play sports. Um, I did typical tomboy things. I hated Barbie dolls. I loved playing with Ninja Turtles. I wrestled around with boys. I did not do a lot of things that were particularly girly. There came a point in my life when even I stopped letting my mother put me in dresses. I collected Ninja Turtles. I loved playing in the mud. I was a messy kid. I loved sports. I loved kickball. I played with the neighborhood boys. Games like Kill the Man with the Ball, where you literally throw a football in the air and whoever catches it has to run as fast as they can while literally everyone else chases them down and tackles them. I didn't mind being tackled. I didn't mind doing the tackling. But on a more fundamental level than that, my earliest memories as a child are let's start with identifying with the male protagonist in stories and movies. And the one that is a visceral memory for me is, if you've ever seen either Disney's The Rescuers or The Rescuers Down Under, if you remember the chubby little mouse Bernard with the turtleneck and the flat cap, that was me. I was this shy, unassuming, kind of geeky, sweet kid. And Bianca, the girl mouse, was just, she had him wrapped around her finger. And when I can remember girls in various classrooms in elementary school that I felt similarly towards. And I can remember some of my earliest dreams being me in similar positions where I was the boy rescuing the girl to get the kiss at the end. One is early as before school. I remember being pre-kindergarten and having a dream that I was Tarzan, and I rescued a neighborhood girl down the street, and she gave me a kiss. And I remember that memory. I'm 34. It was 30 years ago, probably. That memory still fills me with feelings. That's how powerful that was for me. But growing up, I wasn't in this rigidly gendered environment in Texas. My family were maybe quasi-religious, and some of them were pseudo-religious. And I was religiously curious. I loved going to church as a kid. I even went by myself, without my parents sometimes. I would just, get on the bus and go to Sunday school. But even in school, in Sunday school and in the churches, nobody ever policed my gender. I was just this weird, this sweet tomboy kid. I remember people would talk to my mom and try to reassure her, oh, Robin will grow out of that one day. Like, Robin won't always be a tomboy. And my mom would just be like, well, maybe, maybe not. Like, I don't care. Like, why would I care about this? So I never felt weird. I never felt weird about it. I was just me. And so when I came out as transgender as a 28-year-old to my mother was surprised by that. And I think my aunt too, my mom's little sister, were just like, I never saw it. And meanwhile, my siblings who knew me most intimately, obviously, were like, yeah, we know. Like, but I think it's because I never needed to. I never needed to come out to them because nobody ever made me feel like I was different, even though I always kind of knew. The other thing that kind of happened to me was as I started to hit puberty, I actually started to get facial hair. People might think that this right here is because of the testosterone. Testosterone hasn't done anything for me yet. This is all me. It's always been me. I've been growing a beard forever. I used to shave it all the time because I knew I was supposed to be embarrassed by it. But this has always been a thing for me. And right now, a couple years ago, I just decided I'm going to stop I'm going to stop being embarrassed about that and just embrace it. But I started to grow facial hair when I hit puberty. I started to get curves, and that was around the time when I started hiding those curves, and it drove my mom nuts. My mom would always be like, "Why are you wearing these baggy parachute pants or these baggy cargo pants and these huge shirts? Like, I'm clearly like a size medium, and I'm wearing larger, extra large shirts." And it was to hide my chest because I hated it. But even then, like I didn't have the vocabulary to describe why I felt so upset about going through puberty. I just dressed in huge boys' clothes, and that was it. That's what I did. Um, and the other thing was, started getting hair on my body in a way that boys do. So clearly, I had a higher androgen content than most teenage girls. But my family didn't have health insurance, so I wasn't diagnosed with PCOS until my early 20s when I was able to get health insurance for myself. But in the meantime, I liked it. I liked the hair on my belly. I liked my hairy legs. I knew I shouldn't. I knew I should have been embarrassed about it, right? But so I shaved. I shaved a lot, and of course, it only made it worse. But I secretly enjoyed having a hairy body. It made me feel nice, and that was another thing that I never could talk about with anybody. What happened was I hit 21, and we moved to North Carolina, and suddenly I found myself in a rigidly gendered environment for the first time. And this was an environment where women weren't allowed to even wear women's pants. So any kind of women's clothing that wasn't a dress was considered evil. It's the evilest thing you could do. And so I, for the first time, was constantly criticized for my masculine mannerisms, I was told to smile more, that I wasn't bubbly enough, that I needed to grow up and stop wearing football jerseys. I was passive-aggressively given dresses all the time, just given dresses. Here, try these on. And I started burying myself into this really conservative religion in an attempt to fit in, and an attempt to hide, because it was the first time in my life that I realized I am different. And all of these things make me feel bad. They make me feel horrible. And so I started getting into a pattern where it's like, maybe if I prayed hard enough, maybe if I became a Sunday school teacher, maybe if I learned the right kind of lingo, maybe if I did start to wear dresses. So I started. Maybe if I started trying to figure out makeup, because God knows that was baffling for me. And the thing is, I started doing those things, and I started wearing dresses, and I started wearing makeup, and I started trying to do something with my hair. It was not good. Like, if you look at pictures from that time, it's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. There's photos of me where it's like, here I am as a teenager, and I'm this quirky, adorable teenager who's like this masculine girl, and here I am in North Carolina trying to be a woman and failing at it, just absolutely 100% failing at it. But people don't know that, because I started getting compliments. Oh, you know what? You look really nice. That's a nice dress. You're wearing makeup. You look very cute. But here's the thing. I looked in the mirror and I hated myself. I don't know how to describe to you what looking at myself in the mirror did to me dressed like that on just such a deep level, to the point where if I think about it hard enough, I either cry or get enraged. And it was 7 years of that, of me just trying desperately to be anybody but who I actually am, and just not doing great. And what happened was in 2009, the economic crisis happened and I lost my job. And that gave me an opportunity to be alone with my thoughts. And that was so horrible. And I just started sleeping all the time. I stopped going to church. I stopped going to friends' houses. I stopped talking to anybody but David, really. I took lots of depression naps, tons of depression naps, and then I played video games. And that was how I dealt with my depression. And it was partly losing my job, but it was also that I had been chipped away at slowly for 7 years to the point where I was broken and I couldn't take it anymore. The nice thing is, being alone with my thoughts allowed me the opportunity to start questioning my sexuality and later my gender. So towards the end of those 7 years, I came out as gender fluid and bisexual. And I started experimenting in my dress with masculine things. I bought some neckties. They had to be like pink or purple. I didn't want to freak lots of people out or anything, but David and I had started talking to Tracy about having a baby, and I'd started, like, frankly, experimenting with being bisexual. And I will never forget, and this is where the 28 thing comes in, the 28 answer. Tracy was already pregnant. David and I had already made plans to move to Massachusetts in February, but for November, we decided to travel to Massachusetts to have Thanksgiving dinner with Tracy. And on the phone, Tracy said that she wanted to do my hair. She was like, you have this thick, gorgeous, beautiful hair, which is true. And she's like, but I want to like blow dry it and put it in rollers. And I can't tell you what that did to me. I panicked. Not only did I panic, I overreacted. I went straight to the nearest walk-in salon, like Supercuts, and I had them chop that off. And they did. I got my hair cut short for the first time since probably second grade was when my thick, beautiful hair was a curse then because it got so tangly. My mom just had somebody just cut it off. She was like, just remove it. And that was the first. Now I'm 28 years old and I have a haircut similar to my 9-year-old self. And I remember getting home and I was wearing a Baylor University green hoodie and, of course, very baggy pants. And my mom had given us this this full-length mirror for our wedding, mine and David's wedding. And I walked into our bedroom and I saw my reflection and I saw myself for the first time ever. And I'll never forget what that did to me. Because I was hiding. I was hiding for so long. And I looked in the mirror and it was the first time I ever, liked what I saw. But it was also the first time I actually saw me. You know, there's a downside to being unassuming in nature. I'm gullible. I'm nice. I just assume everyone else is nice. But it also means that I don't question my world around me very often, and I don't question my own reality because I just assume everything's okay. So that even when things aren't okay, I've had to learn to really pay attention to that. And it was the first time I realized that I am not okay, that person in the mirror is there's been a voice inside of me, there's been a person inside of me just screaming to be let out. And I finally let that person out, and there he is, looking at me. That's what makes me transgender. It's not that I like masculine things. It's not that I didn't like dolls as a kid, or I like to play sports. None of those things make you transgender. It was looking in the mirror and seeing myself for the first time and knowing that that's me. That's what makes me transgender. And that's when I knew. And that's when I knew that I couldn't go back. That was it. It didn't matter what anybody thought about me. It didn't matter if my family couldn't accept me. It didn't matter what it did to my in-laws. That I couldn't stop being me from that point forward. That shoving myself back in that closet would destroy me. And I wasn't going to do it. Never again. So I moved to Massachusetts, and I got a really nice therapist who helped me work through the anger that I felt from those 7 years of being in a pressure cooker, from conservatism and gender policing and just not low-key homophobia, but just high-key, rigid homophobia and fear. And I feel like I'm in a good place now, but I wasn't for a long time. And sorry, I didn't anticipate getting so emotional, but that's when I knew I was transgender. So on one hand, I've always been, and I've always kind of known, but I'm just too sweet and unassuming to have ever just been like, Mom, I think that I'm a boy. But the reality is that 28 years old, I saw myself for the first time, and that's whenever I knew. So, there you have it. I guess I ran way over limit here. Like, I'm at 17 minutes, but screw it. I'm just gonna post it because, yeah, this is what it is. Anyway, thanks, guys. I'll talk to you all soon. Love you. Bye.